All right, welcome back to SportsLine. Good news. We have reconnected with Titans beat writer for the Tennessean, Ben Arthur, who rejoins us. And before we had those Zoom issues, Ben, you were telling us about Kenyon Green. I, like you, have mocked him to the Titans at 26, assuming they stay there. What do you like about him? Obviously, versatility is the first thing that comes to my mind. What say you?
Yeah, versatility, first thing that comes to my mind as well. Started at 4 different spots for the Aggies, 80-plus snaps at each of those spots, both guard spots, both tackle spots. This is a guy who gets after it in the run game, a really dominant run blocker, 35 straight starts at Texas A&M. There's a lot to like with him. That there doesn't really seem to be any red flags. A guy who is consistently available, which seemed to be an issue for the Titans up front last season for a variety of reasons. So, Kenyon Green is a guy I like a lot. John Robinson was at his pro day earlier in the spring, so I know he has his eyes on him as well. The Titans met with him to some capacity, so I like him a lot. So we'll kind of see what happens. Is he going to be there? I'm not sure, but I think he's probably the most likely top offensive line prospect that will top offensive line prospect that will be available to Tennessee at 26 in my eyes.
Yeah, no question about it. I happen to agree with you. But when you look at this Titans offensive line, last year, Ben, they moved up in the second round to take Dylan Radins out of North Dakota State. And they have been, both John Robinson and Mike Vrabel have been open to the fact that, when we met with them at the NFL Combine, they were very open to the fact to say that, he's not ready yet. I mean, that's a situation that needs addressing. Who's going to be your left guard, but most importantly, who's going to be your right tackle? Because why? This. Most teams are right-handed running teams, and you've got that beast in the backfield at Derrick Henry. He needs a guy that can, help clear a path for him. So what do you think the Titans will do at right tackle? Do they address it in the draft? Do they try and go out and maybe see if there's any free agents left over? What do you think the strategy is there? Or do they try to make it work with Dylan Radins?
Yeah, JB, and I think that even kind of further emphasizes my point on Kenyon Green, just because he seems to have the most versatility of any offensive lineman in this draft, and he's likely going to be in the Titans' range. I think with Green, you can put him at left guard, and then you can have Dylan Radins play at right tackle, the position he was drafted to play. And even if it doesn't work out, I think in Green, you have someone who has enough versatility to give you some depth there. And then you also added Jamarco Jones in free agency, a versatile offensive lineman who I actually covered with the Seahawks. He's going to be in play as well. But Dylan Radins' development is going to be really key here. We don't know if they're going to want to focus him at guard or tackle at this point. But I think with Kenyon Green, you have the most flexibility, just because he appears to be, at least on paper, the most versatile of these O-line prospects at the top of the draft.
Yeah, this offensive line for the Titans certainly in flux as we head into this part of the offseason. Now, you mentioned the possibility, Ben, of the Titans selecting a quarterback. Obviously, we know what the situation is with Ryan Tannehill. Sooner or later, they're going to have to start to develop a younger quarterback. How likely is it, even if it's not in the first round, how likely do you think that it is that the Titans do select a quarterback at any point during this year's draft?
Well, I'd say if it's not at the top of the draft, I don't think they would draft one. But I do think there is a pretty high likelihood that they will draft a quarterback. I think it makes a lot sense for a lot of reasons. A lot of people would say, well, if you're drafting a quarterback, you're not really furthering the team for 2022 and kind of their hopes for kind of reaching and hopefully winning the Super Bowl. But I think with sitting behind Tannehill, learning for a year, then having that rookie quarterback step in in 2023, you move on from Tannehill, save more than close to $8 million against the cap, and use that kind of extra flexibility to continue to build your team. I think that's one of the many reasons why the Titans could look to do that. You also have to consider Tannehill's age. Mm-hmm. He's 33. He's going to be 34 this summer. I believe he's one of the top 3 oldest quarterbacks in an AFC where it's just getting stronger and stronger. It seems every month, just with the moves teams have made. So, I think kind of best case scenario with the Titans and a quarterback is if that they have their choice of them at 26, trade back, get one later in the first round or early second, and still kind of have that additional, hopefully top 100 pick to where you're so confident about your ability to add high impact players at wide receiver, tight end, O-line, kind of the weapons around Tannehill for 2022 and that rookie quarterback for 2023 and beyond.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Obviously, there are a lot of issues surrounding the Titans outside of the draft, and chief among them appears to be A.J. Brown. He is decided not to attend the early portion of the offseason workouts. He's been very vocal on social media about the fact that he wants a new contract. He was a second-round pick, so he doesn't have the luxury of getting that guaranteed fifth-year option. He wants his new deal. He wants it now. The Titans seem to be pretty steadfast in their claim that they want to sign him long-term. I don't see a scenario where this doesn't get done. Do you, Ben? I mean, do you see a scenario where we're waking up one morning and all of a sudden there's a Shefty bomb or a rap sheet bomb that says A.J. Brown has raised his hand and says, I'm out of here, I want to be traded? I don't see that. Do you?
Yeah, I really don't either, JB. It'd have to take something unforeseen for something like that to happen. I mean, the Titans have made it very clear they want him for now and in the long term. John Robinson has made it clear multiple times. Mike Vrabel made it clear on the Rich Eisen show, I believe, a couple weeks ago when he said that the Titans won't trade A.J. Brown as long as he's the coach of the team. And you just look at his value to the Titans. You can make the case that he's their most valuable player, at least on the offensive side of the ball, because Derrick Henry, as an older running back, we don't know how much left he has in the tank. Tannehill isn't the long-term option at quarterback, and you have a guy in A.J. Brown, an already proven star who continues to rise at a premium position. And we saw how the Titans offense looked when he didn't play. It just seemed like the offense fell apart when he wasn't out there. The run game was able to kind of work regardless of who was in the backfield. But when A.J. Brown wasn't on the outside, the Titans really seemed to struggle doing much of anything. So you look at what the Titans have said publicly, the value that he brings to the team on the field, and just where this team is at, kind of a win now mode. I just don't see a world where the Titans don't find a way to get this done.
You know, Ben, it's funny, as we get ready for the NFL draft, which starts tomorrow, I had to remind myself that they drafted Caleb Farley last year. We didn't see him pretty much all season. What have you heard about his comeback trail? Obviously coming off a lot of injuries, a big injury last year. How ready do you think he'll be for, OTA's minicamp and ultimately the regular season in September?
Yeah, I think ultimately you're banking on him, if you're the Titans, to be that starting corner opposite Christian Fulton. That's why you draft a corner. That's why when you have a first-round pick, you expect him to kind of be your long-term starter at the position he's chosen. And so I think the Titans are entering the 2022 season with that mindset. We saw them cut Jack Rabbit Jenkins, so kind of it's really his to lose. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Titans look to shore up the depth at the cornerback spot. As talented as Caleb Farley has been, he hasn't played a full football season since 2018 when he was a redshirt freshman at Virginia Tech. A lot of upside there, a lot of playmaking potential, but he has struggled to stay on the field. There were the back surgeries he entered the NFL with. He also tore his ACL. Earlier in his college career, he missed a couple games. His 2019 season, that really his standout season in college. So, I wouldn't be surprised as high as the, mid rounds for the Titans to kind of draft a cornerback, just to kind of make sure your bases are covered, just in case, from an injury standpoint, Caleb isn't there. But I think all indications have been positive. Just what the Titans, what J-Rob, told me at the Senior Bowl, and what Mike Vrabel said at the pre-draft press conference last week. The Titans are very encouraged with the progress he's made. I remember even Mike smiling when describing what Caleb had done through the first week of the off-season program, saying he's, quote, light years ahead of where he was at the end of last season. So, all signs are good at this point, and the spot is there for him to kind of take hold of that outside cornerback spot. But then again, it's still only April, and we don't know, when is he going to hit the field? When he hits the field, is he going to be there consistently? And so those are all things we still need answers for at this point in the offseason.
Yeah, and when you look at the draft, you mentioned maybe shoring up the secondary. I mean, this was a championship-level defense last year, which was a 180-degree turn from the year before when they were absolutely terrible. Where do you think the Titans might look defensively elsewhere in the NFL draft?
Yeah, defensively, I think safety is one of the spots at the top of my list. You lose a guy in Dane Cruikshank, who, for most of his Titans career was probably more of a special teams guy, but really emerged as the number 3 safety last year. And he was really the Titans' tight end stopper, whether it was, a guy like George Kittle or Travis Kelce, really playing a key role in those single, man coverage situations against those elite pass catching tight ends we see in the NFL today. There's a big void there for the Titans, and as great as the strides that the Titans made defensively last season, pass defense was probably their biggest issue. I believe they were 24th or 25th in passing yards allowed per game. We saw what Jamar Chase did to the Titans in the divisional round loss last season. I think really everywhere across this secondary is probably fair game to add depth. And then look, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Titans add an edge rusher, maybe one of their strongest spots on defense, just because, Bud Dupree is going to be a year removed from his ACL. Another year removed from his ACL tear, but is he really going to be the Bud Dupree we saw in Pittsburgh? He never, I think, really fully regained his form last season, and then Rashad Weaver broke his leg. Their 4th rounder from the 2021 draft class only played 2 games. So I think edge is a spot that the Titans could look to shore up depth in addition to across the secondary.
Got a couple of minutes left. Everybody talks about the Titans championship window. I think a golden opportunity was lost last year. Ben, I want to get your thoughts on it. I don't see them winning 12 games again this year. I don't see them getting the number 1 seed in the AFC. That window is certainly still open, but it's closed significantly, has it not?
It has, JB. I mean, there's just another year. Yeah, it's just another year past kind of this window that's been open for them, that their core players are getting older. Derrick Henry is 28. Kevin Byard, I believe, is 29. Tannehill, as I said, is 33. You have AJ coming due with this big money extension. Jeffrey Simmons is going to come due pretty soon. The Titans picked up his 5th-year option, but Harold Landry just got a big contract. You have all these older guys, expensive guys And then you look at how the rest of the AFC is going. You see the Bengals, how they've ascended this past year. The Bills and the Chiefs are probably just at the top of the list. In the AFC, this window is, as you said, it is still open, but it is kind of it's closing more and more each year. The Titans, they're a consistent winner, right? That they can give you a winning record in the regular season, but they've yet to really show sustained playoff success besides that 2019 run. And so this is a massive offseason for the Titans. We already saw this in free agency because of their cap situation, and really because of Tannehill's massive cap hit, which is going to be the largest in the NFL next season.
Right.
Why they weren't able to really make the kinds of moves that other teams across the AFC were doing, including the Bills and the Bengals, who are going to be right back at the top of the AFC. And I look at Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati. They've all kind of drafted better in consecutive years as well. So you have to put that into play as well. So the Titans are going to need some high impact players from this 2022 class. I keep thinking about that 2019 group, which was just seemed a legendary group for J-Rob, right? You had 5 starters, 2 franchise cornerstones in Jeffrey Simmons and A.J. Brown. It's hard to obviously to recreate something like that, and any GM would want a class like that.
Well, Ben, we're running short on time, but I want to thank you so much for being on with us. I hate to cut you off like that, but we got a hard break here. Thanks so much for being with us, and enjoy the draft, my friend.
Thank you, JB. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, and we're back right after this.